For the record keepers of those clans, I need point totals by Saturday evening if possible, or Saturday morning would be good. I'd appreciate that. All right. Let's look at our Bibles tonight. 1 Kings chapter number 21. 1 Kings chapter 21. I want to talk to you. It's a funny title, but it's actually a serious thing. We call it retail therapy. We'll talk about it in a moment. A woman had a difficult week, conflict at work, tension at home. One night she sat on the couch scrolling online. She added shoes to her cart and then a handbag and then some home decor. She didn't need any of it, but by clicking place order, it gave her a brief rush, a feeling of control in a week where everything seemed out of control. The packages arrived, but the stress didn't leave, and then the bill came due. That's an all too common way. It is funny, but it's true. It's an all too common way in which a lot of people deal with stress. It's how some people cope with depression and emotional issues. Professionally, it's called retail therapy. Defined, retail therapy is the act of shopping to improve mood, to reduce stress, or to manage difficult emotions, often providing a temporary, immediate boost to happiness. Scientific studies have shown that retail therapy does provide a release of dopamine. That is your pleasure hormone. But that euphoria doesn't last long. You say, well, Pastor, what in the world does retail therapy have to do with the Bible? I believe we can find a form of retail therapy found in the life of Ahab here in 1 Kings chapter number 21. When we left Ahab in the last chapter, he had been soundly rebuked, had been told that his life was going to end because he had failed to obey the command of the Lord regarding the king of Syria, Ben-Hadad. Instead of killing him, he had let him go free, and God had sent an unnamed prophet to tell Ahab, because you spared his life, I'm going to take yours. And Ahab went home. Let's read the end of chapter number 20, there in verse number 43. And the king of Israel went to his house heavy and displeased and came to Samaria. And I've already said, retail therapy is what a lot of people turn to manage depression, to manage stress, because it does that act of acquiring something, that act of buying something, gives them a momentary sense of happiness and euphoria. It releases that pleasure drug, dopamine. And so here is Ahab. He's depressed. He's sad. He's upset. And we pick up immediately thereafter in chapter number 21 and look at verse number 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or, if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, The Lord forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came to his house heavy and displeased, because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. We're going to see this retail therapy played out in the life of Ahab. And here we see, first of all tonight, the pouting of a privileged king. The pouting of a privileged king. Going back to Samaria, Ahab decides to, you know what I need? I just need to lift my mood. I need to distract myself from that bad news that mean old prophet of God gave me. And so I need to do something that will kind of boost my mood to help me get my mind off of that and lift me out of my depression. And so he looked around and he saw next door was a beautiful vineyard. And he says, I want that. I've got to have that. I need that. I'm going to purchase that. And we see, first of all, tonight, an unsatiable desire. In Ahab's mind, he's being more than fair. He's being reasonable. The vineyard was nearby. It's right beside his own palace. It's obviously beautiful, well kept, and desirable. He doesn't need it, but he wants it. And he's willing to pay a fair price for it. And here's a man who's used to getting what he wanted. That though he had so much, it wasn't enough. Just one more purchase, just one more thing, just a little more. Folks, this is the sin of covetousness, and it knows no end. It's never satisfied. Look at the United States of America. I told you not too long ago, we have more storage units in America than we got people. You say, what's the deal with that? It's because we have so much and we don't know how to say no to ourselves, so we just buy more. We get a little down, we get a little sad, we get a little depressed, we feel like life's spinning a little out of control, and so what do? We go on Amazon. They'll deliver it right to your house. You don't have to go anywhere. And it's an unsatiable desire of always wanting more and more and more. The average American only wears 30% of the clothes you own. You have a closet, most of you probably have a closet full of clothes you never wear. John D. Rockefeller was once asked, how much money is enough? He replied, just a little bit more. And that's the case. And this is really the heart of the issue here. It's not that Ahab wanted to buy the issue's not that Ahab wanted to buy somebody else's vineyard, but why he wanted to buy it. He didn't need it. He just wanted it. And I propose that it is nothing more than what I've been describing. It was retail therapy. He's a depressed king who feels like he has lost some control in his life. And so, as a way of gaining back that control, as a way of lifting his spirits, he wants a project. He wants something to buy, something to purchase that will make him feel better. The heart of the issue with retail therapy is not that we lack something specific, but it's that we're not satisfied with what we have. It creates an unsatiable desire that can never be filled. I hope this is not you, but there are probably here people who have clothes in your closet. Not only have you never worn them, they still have the tags on them. We have garages so full of stuff you can't park your car in it. It's not that we need more stuff, because we don't. They need a place to store the stuff they have. And much of it, I want to submit, is just retail therapy. It stems from a heart that is discontent, dissatisfied with what God has provided. We get confused thinking things or the next thing is going to bring us joy. But joy doesn't come from things. You should know that. Watch any kid at Christmas. They get a whole bunch of things And then the next day, they want to take their gift card and go to Target or Walmart and buy more things. Because things don't bring joy, not lasting joy. We start with an unsatiable desire, and we go next to an unwavering denial. I don't know for certain, but I'm just kind of guessing, and I'm reading between the lines, but somehow I don't think this was a one-time offer. I think Ahab wanted this vineyard and probably pressed Naboth often, sell me this vineyard. I want your vineyard. What will it take for me to buy your vineyard? And he asked him again and again and again, and the answer always comes back no. Now consider the reason for Naboth's no. You know, this man Naboth, we don't know a lot about him, but we know this. He realized there are some things that are not for sale. This land he looked at was a gift from God. It was land acquired by his forefathers when they followed Joshua into the land to conquer it. And to him, it represented more than dirt. It was a recognition of dedication and devotion to the Lord. This land to Naboth represented a spiritual heritage, but for Ahab, it was just another material possession. Naboth shows us that there are important things, spiritual things, that must not be for sale. And we should have a fixed and firm, unwavering denial to go along with any type of compromise or sellout that the devil would come along and want us to have regarding these important matters. Sadly, we live in a time of the Christian sellout. Those who trade in their integrity, those who trade their devotion to the Lord for the price of popularity, fame, and fortune. There are things that ought to not be for sale in your life. Your children and their spiritual heritage and their spirituality should not be for sale. It should be protected at all costs. That anything that might hinder that, anything that might compromise that, you just need to have a firm face and say no to. That's not for sale. This all, when I was thinking about it, reminded me of an event in the life of Abraham. You go back in Genesis and you read Abraham, him and Lot parted ways because there was conflict between their herdsmen, and he told Lot, you go in one direction, I'll go in the other. And the Bible tells us that Lot pitched his tent towards Sodom because the plains in that direction were well watered. And the next thing we know, Lot's down in Sodom. And there was another king with a confederacy of kings who rose up and went to war against the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in the midst of all that chaos and conflict, Lot was kidnapped, along with the king of Sodom. And when Abraham got news of that, Abraham took his armed servants and he went out and he defeated this king that had taken hostage, had taken Lot as a kidnap victim. He defeated him and let Lot go free. But in the process, he also freed the king of Sodom. And the king of Sodom wants to give Abraham some reward for releasing him and rescuing him from being kidnapped. And Abraham refuses to accept anything, because Abraham knows that if he accepts anything from this king of Sodom, then he's going to expect something in return. That the next time he does something, he's going to expect Abraham to come and help him. And Abraham doesn't want to have any affiliation with this man because he knows how wicked he is. And he tells the king of Sodom, I won't take anything from you. I won't take a thing from you. And he's essentially telling the king of Sodom, sir, my faith and my loyalty to God are not for sale. My loyalty, my devotion only belongs to one, and it's not you. It only belongs to God. And I don't know how much he offered Abraham. I'm sure it was a great deal. But Abraham was unwavering in his denial and said no. If you look in your Bible in the next verse, in Genesis 15:1, you just listen, you can look there later, but Genesis 15:1, right after Abraham tells the king of Sodom, I am not for sale, my loyalty is not for sale, my allegiance to you is not for sale, my spirituality and my faith are not for sale. Then immediately after that, God spoke to Abraham, and this is what he said. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. God says, I saw what you did. I saw your unwavering denial, and I support you, and I'm here to let you know I'm your protection and I'm your prosperity. Not man, me. We need to be like Abraham and Naboth and realize that our faith, our devotion, our loyalty and allegiance to God and what He's done in our life, it is not for sale. But instead, we have a lot of people today who profess to be Christians that they sell out pretty cheap. They sell out for the price of fame. People go gaga over certain people who become celebrities, and they say, oh, well, I'm a Christian, and then you watch as they get a little bit of fame and how their morality begins to change and how their tolerance towards sin begins to change. Why? Because they sell out. People thought Chip and Joanna Gaines was the next thing since the coming of the Messiah. They sold out, and they keep selling out because that's what fame does. Look at all the politicians in Washington that went up there as Bible-believing Christians, and they sell out pretty quickly. Your faith ought not to be for sale. That's what Naboth was saying. There's no price, Ahab. There's no amount of money that can buy this. It's not for sale. Well, for a man like Ahab, he's not used to being told no. This is going to be pretty upsetting. So in addition to an unwavering denial and an unsatiable desire, we see an unflattering demeanor in verse number 4. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased, because the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him, what word? No. It's the only word that he spoke was no. But when you've never heard that in your entire life, it's a pretty upsetting word. I know some parents who've raised their children that way, and that's a terrible way to raise children. In fact, as soon as you know that they can understand something, go on and teach them that word no. That's probably the first word they need to learn, is no. It says, not Burger King world. You can't have it your way. You can't do whatever you want. You can't eat whatever you want. You can't go wherever you want. No. And some of them, when they hear that word no, they'll just be devastated. Oh, you would have think you would have taken a rod and beaten them from here to Atwater. but they'll survive. If they cry because you told them no, it'll be all right. They'll cry less the next time. But Ahab's not used to hearing no. And so because Naboth dared speak this word to him, he went home with a heavy heart and displeased. And he laid upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. Here is a grown man acting like a spoiled child. When men's hearts are not satisfied with God, they are going to attempt to appease themselves through acquisition. Is that not what Eve did? Because she was not satisfied with what God had provided, she tried to appease that dissatisfaction by acquiring something new, acquiring something forbidden, acquiring something she did not need. She had a whole garden full of fruit that she could eat all she wanted of. But she had become dissatisfied with that and wanted something else. The children of Israel, in our daily Bible reading, again, you were reading about the children of Israel. And after 40 years, they were tired of that manna. They didn't want any more heavenly cornflakes for breakfast. They said, we need some meat. And they began to murmur and complain. And God says, I'm going to give you some meat that's going to be coming out of your nostrils. That's what he said. Within a month's time, you're going to be sick of it. Why? Because when we're not satisfied with God, we'll attempt to appease that dissatisfaction through acquisition of something else. People try and medicate their hurts through obtaining and buying, but that is always going to lead to more spiritual and moral problems. Ahab doesn't need another vineyard. You know what Ahab needs? And what you often need? It's called contentment. It's just contentment. You need to be content with what you have. Retail therapy starts with a desire, but it ends with a demand. It moves from I want to I need to I must. Some have likened retail therapy to an emotional anesthesia. We often buy not because we need, but because we're disappointed. We need a distraction and think acquisition will ease the stress and soothe the agitation. And for a brief moment, it works. And this is what Ahab is attempting to do in trying to buy Naboth's vineyard. And it is what many people struggle with today. And I don't know if that's you are here tonight, but I would venture to say that in this congregation there are some people that, if you would be honest, you struggle a little bit with this. That when you get a little down, when you get a little sad, when you get a little disturbed, you feel like buying something, shopping will help you feel better. Let's go shopping, even though you don't need anything. And I would say there are people that are here like that. Ahab's sulking because he can't get what he wanted. And along comes Jezebel. We see the pouting of a privileged king. We see only 2 points tonight. We see the plotting of a perverse partner. See the pouting of a privileged king, and we see the plotting of a perverse partner. In the world of retail therapy, Ahab represents the buyer. Jezebel represents the easy credit. Just sign here, sir. Worry about payments later. We'll take care of all the financing for you. Buy now, pay later. Imagine buying a luxury item on a credit card, but then the fine print says the interest rate is your soul and your neighbor's life, would you still be willing to pay? Look at the plot here. Look at the probing before the plotting. Verses 5 and 6. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said to him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. So here comes Jezebel. She noticed he hasn't been out of bed in several days. He's not eating. Does she love him? Maybe. Who's to say? But I imagine she certainly saw him as her opportunity to the life she wanted to live, to be able to do what she was pleased to do. Some have suggested that Christians are too hard on Ahab, that he was a courageous soldier, a capable ruler who never intended to completely divorce himself from the worship of God, as attested by the names of his children. He gave his children names that seemed to show some level of faith. But Ahab was a foolish man who believed that he could ride the fence and worship both God and Baal. If that's true, and maybe it is, if that is true, his fatal flaw was who he chose to be his partner. Because if there was anything redeemable in him, there was none in her. Any good that might have been fostered and nurtured and existed in Ahab was completely destroyed by her. Be careful who you marry. Be careful who even your friends are. She asked. She understood the problem. And she's not going to do like him. She's going to move to take action. Notice the promise in the plotting in verse number 7. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Now, let me put that in today's vernacular. Ahab, man up! Be a man, Ahab. Are you not the king? Can't you just do what you want? That's basically what she's saying. Dost thou not now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. It was a dual edge of both scorn and soothing. In the end, she promises Ahab, Don't worry about it, honey. I'll take care of everything. Ahab's passive. Jezebel's proactive. She wants her husband to see the power, to see power the way she sees power. For her, power is entitlement. No one less than them, and there was no one that wasn't less than them, but no one less than them has the right to deny them anything. They're the king and the queen. Kind of reminds me of one of our former presidents and his wife. First name starts with Clint and last name On. Same attitude. He's just an all shucks, get along, whatever. She's the entitled one who understands power and understands how to utilize it. For her, power means people must bow to them. For her, power is an authority, a license to do whatever they please And she's attempting to goad Ahab into seeing power the way she sees power. Jezebel is like those in our culture and our country who cheer people on and say, "You deserve it. You're worth it. Ahab, treat yourself." But if we don't learn to master desire, we'll look for somebody to validate it, for someone to bless what God has not approved. And Jezebel was like that for Ahab. She was his yes man. I wonder if you have people in your life who enable your covetousness. Instead of putting a limit to it, they enable it. Instead of telling you, you may want it, but you don't need it, they say, "Oh, but you deserve it. Just go on and do it." Notice the printing and the plotting in verse number 8. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal and sent the letters unto the elders to the nobles that were in his city dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters saying, "Proclaim a fast." She's putting a religious spin on it. Oh, this is a sacred time. Let's have a fast and kill somebody while we're doing it. Proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. Esteem him, lift him up. Don't let him know what's getting ready to happen. And set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him to bear witness against him, saying, "Thou didst blaspheme God and the king," and then carry him out and stone him that he may die. Such a nice lady. Think of the boldness. I've never really thought about this and looked at it, but think of the boldness of what she's doing. I mean, usually such plotting is done hush-hush, in secret, with no paper trail. She's so bold, she's so brash, she's so brazen, she prints out letters and sends out copies and says, "Here's my plot to get rid of this guy and get what he owns." And she doesn't care who knows it. She doesn't care if the paper trail leads back to her and Ahab. She's not concerned a bit. She printed letters. The whole plot is detailed and laid out. You say, well, how could she be so bold? Because people witnessing this are going to realize if I oppose her, the next letter that's coming out is going to have my name on it. Right? During his years as premier of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev denounced a lot of the policies and atrocities of his predecessor, Joseph Stalin. Once, as he was speaking in a public meeting, railing on Stalin and his failures and his atrocities, he was interrupted by a heckler from the audience who shouted out, "You were one of his colleagues. Why didn't you stop him?" "Who said that?" roared Khrushchev. The crowd went agonizing silent. Nobody in the room dared move a muscle because they knew to do so would mean certain death. And after a brief pause, Khrushchev stepped back and then looked at them and said, "Now you know why." It's the same thing with Jezebel. She's using fear and intimidation to the max. She doesn't care if she's writing it down in paper and sending it out for anybody to read and know what's going on, that the queen has conspired to kill a person, to take what belongs to them. Who's going to oppose her? And she knows it. She has no fear of man or God. Notice the performance in the plotting. Verse number 11. And the men of the city, of his city, even the elders and the nobles, who were the inhabitants of his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came two men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. They carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. Fear will cause men to do what they could never envision or see themselves doing. I don't think these men wanted to kill Naboth. I think they probably thought he was a good man. He was such a good man that they had to hire liars in order to come up with some way to falsely accuse him. They couldn't even come up with anything because of his integrity and character. Sadly, we learn in a later text in 2 Kings 9:26, the Bible tells us that they didn't just kill Naboth that day, they killed his sons too. The world and Satan, they care little about the cost of innocent lives. They care little about collateral damage. The rulers of this world are no different today. If you have to destroy others to get what you want, you're not governing, you're consuming. There's simply collateral damage to get what they want. And unlike many, and unfortunately, many live their lives the same way today. They don't even blink twice before doing things that hurt and cost others, as long as they get what they want. Lastly, we see the possessing and the plotting. Verse number 14. Or verse number 15. And it came to pass when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. And it came to pass when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab arose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. The dirty deed was done. Naboth and his sons were dead. There was no longer any heir to lay claim to the vineyard. Now there was nobody to stand in the way of Ahab getting what he wanted. And notice the immediate emotional turnaround from depressed to delighted. He got what he wanted, but at what price? You know, some people never think about the cost until the bill comes. But by then it's too late. We're going to see that next week. Because you know who's going to be waiting for him in the vineyard, don't you? It's going to be the return of Elijah. And Elijah has something to say that's from the Lord. Let me close with a few more thoughts, though, about Ahab's retail therapy. Psychologists say that we shop when we feel helpless after a breakup, a job loss, or a death. Making a choice to buy gives us a 40 times boost in our sense of personal control. But it's a temporary illusion. Naboth had said no, acquiring the vineyard by any means temporarily boosted Ahab's mood. That is, until he runs into Elijah. Then he's going to get the bill. Science reveals that dopamine is released before the purchase. The scrolling, the dreaming, the desiring. So, you know what that means? If you're a person who leans on retail therapy, you can get the boost without buying. Just scroll and imagine yourself owning it. Put it in your cart and then remove it, and you'll feel great. Often, a lot of times this retail therapy comes down to fantasy of how we want life to be or how we think life will be once we own that item. If I just have that, then I'll be happier. If I just buy a great pair of running shoes, I'll start running. If I just buy that treadmill, then I'll exercise. If I just buy those golf clubs, I'll find time and money to play golf. Ahab didn't have a lack of stuff. He had a lack of satisfaction. In Christian church tonight, I wonder if that couldn't often be said about us. I think it's something we all struggle with from time to time. Avis Cardella wrote a book called Spent. In it, she details the spiral she went through after the sudden death of her mother. She found herself trapped in a cycle of what she called buying to breathe. See, Avis was a successful fashion writer in New York, a world where shopping is not just a hobby but a professional requirement. But when her mother died, she didn't know how to process the grief. And she began to use the rush of buying at high-end stores like Barney's to numb the pain. She described the experience as an out-of-body high. Standing in a beautifully lit store, surrounded by luxury, she felt powerful and important, and most importantly, no longer sad. She would buy expensive items like designer jewelry and luxury skincare almost daily. But once she got the shopping bag home, the therapy evaporated. The items would often sit in their boxes unopened. She didn't want the item. She wanted the feeling of buying the item. Like Ahab, who got the vineyard but still faced the judgment of Elijah, Avis eventually faced a reckoning. She had racked up massive debt and realized that her curated life was only a mask for a hollow heart. The issue isn't merchandise. The issue is misplaced desire. Only Jesus can satisfy your soul. And if you're trying to satisfy with anything else, you'll never do it. Our heads bowed, our eyes closed. Maybe tonight you could just say, Pastor, I hate to admit it, but I needed that tonight. I needed to be reminded just to be content. And you'd slip up your hand.